What's up, everyone? Kaiju no Kami here with
Cruellica Kain
and
Silver Quill,
and we are here to talk about Kamen Rider Revice, episodes 48 and 49. This is the first Kamen Rider series in a while that's going to be 50 episodes.
might also be the first Kamen Rider in a while to make us all cry.
Well, not him, because he's a sociopath.
I was going to say.
Look here, I got a little water right
Cry
here.
about what?
I just sprinkle a little in there, and we'll be good. Cheers.
Do you think I'm George now? Throwing water in my eyes?
Yeah, why? Look, that dude needed some Visine in episode 48. He's needed Visine ever since he touched that driver. Apparently, its superpower is making you dehydrated in the eye sockets.
I'm just thinking of the Benstein commercials. For red eye, dry eyes, clear eyes is awesome.
Whereas I'm thinking of a Clockwork Orange. And if you don't blink, you need a doctor on hand to put eye drops.
And you need an actual doctor in the movie to play a doctor to continuously do those eye drops.
Stop it, please, I beg you.
So we continue where last week left off with, well, the last episode that we watched left off with Juga beating everyone and Ikki losing the memories of his parents.
Well, I still am a believer, like I said last time, that Juga isn't the final boss.
Well, obviously.
Well, even Vice isn't the final boss.
Now we're going to have some quick, stupid-ass thing pop up. This is the way to go. Okay.
I have a prediction, but we'll save it for the end of 49.
But this episode, 48, basically it's trying to deal... Actually, this entire series is just a series dealing with different types of trauma.
Family issues, especially.
Well, and so... As one thing that we've had happen throughout the entirety of the series for George is that his biggest trauma, which every time I think about it is the Austin Powers song, Daddy Wasn't There.
Oh. I was hoping it was the dance song.
But still, for George, it was that whole trauma of being abandoned by his father. And not grieving for his father when he died out of anger because of the fact that it's sometimes hard to grieve for someone if you don't know who they are. Even if they're blood. Think about it for like your family members who are extended. Like third and fourth cousins. You may have seen them like once a year, maybe once every 10 years. So, while they're blood and you have that emotional impact of I lost a family member, you don't have that sorrow like you would for a close family member. And that's kind of what had happened for George, is when having his dad abandon him, it came to the point where he just distanced himself from that relationship.
But when he came back, I think, the stages of denial, not always in a particular order.
No.
Stages. I'm a little tired, so I'm not speaking clearly.
Grief.
Stages of grief. First comes denial, usually. Then down the line comes anger. And you can change up the order, you can move between stages. He wasn't even willing to admit he was angry at his dad for dying.
Well, no, and so that's kind of how Juga came into being. So that's why I never thought of Juga as a final boss. I still think no matter what he says, that Gifu was the final boss. Now it's just kind of cleanup.
Oh, now it's just... Oh, we have 4 more weeks left. Okay,
No, I actually think this is interesting storytelling.
This is resolution and denouement.
Because I think of, as a good example, I think of Persona 5. You haven't played it, so I'll just kind of... You have your final boss that you defeat. And then you still have like an hour's worth of gameplay left. Because you were doing a resolution of all of the storylines that had happened in the game. And so you've beaten the big bad. Doesn't mean the battle isn't over. It doesn't mean that there was a secondary boss. It just means you're cleaning. It means you're resolving a lot.
Right.
And Iki is a busybody. So he's going to resolve. He's going to try to help everyone. And as we saw, even with this, even at the cost of losing his own family's memories, he's still willing to do that because, as he even says during the fights, I'm losing my family. My family's memories. I have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You at least still have something you can hold on to. And I was thinking, especially when we get in episode 49, I've talked about a lot previously about dementia, Alzheimer's, even amnesia. And these were, like, especially when we get into episode 49, it's a perfect example of the isolation that you get when you can't remember, but everybody else around you can. Because there's drawbacks to reminiscing about good times. Because if you reminisce about good times and the person's still there, they can't participate. And I remember learning about that in some of the classes I had to do for Alzheimer's. When you are dealing with memory loss and how you have to find ways of including the person that you're talking about, but trying to do it in a way where they don't feel isolated. And the problem is there's no perfect system. And I actually thought how they handled it in episode 49 was terrible. But it's real life terrible. Because they're thinking they're doing something great. They're talking about him. They're telling him things. And the problem is, they're doing it in a way where he's not part of the conversation. He is the conversation, but they're not including him. So when you see him later and he's like, I just can't do it anymore. That was a perfect response. It's kind of like anybody who forgets things naturally. Because we all forget things naturally. Our brain, like any machine, can only hold so much data before it has to start deleting stuff. That's why we lose a lot of our childhood memories first, because it's the oldest data. Mm-hmm. And so having someone reminisce about something that happened to you, think of your parents doing it. Parents do it all the time. They talk about the most embarrassing things that kids have done when they're little. But the kids are not going to remember because they were so young that those memories are not as retained. You look like you're falling asleep.
No.
Actually, there's another scenario. It's a pity I didn't get to take you to the Oscar-nominated animated shorts. Mm-hmm. There was a special on Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. It's this claymation piece, French, where basically you have the man in full animation, but as the story progresses, as Alzheimer's gets worse, parts of him are becoming invisible or indistinct.
Makes sense.
There's a dinner scene with his family, and all his kids, who are adults and parents in their own rights, mm-hmm. They're actually quite happy by the end. They're saying he's so lively and engaged. It's like nothing. It seems like nothing's wrong. But we, the audience, see how much of him is missing during the conversation.
The best way, and Japan is terrible when it comes to mental health and things like that. I'd be curious at how they handle their memory care.
I don't know.
But one of the things I learned early on in a lot of my Alzheimer's classes is you allow the person who's losing pieces of themselves to reminisce about what they do remember. Because that allows them to feel like they are a part of that conversation. And I still think everything that the series has done is great. I'm not saying, oh my god, it's a terrible way that they handled story-wise, how they handled talking about his memories of him. I thought that was like real to life, and I thought the writing of that was incredible. It's just, it makes me wonder if that's like how it's normally done in Japan, because it's a cultural thing. Because America, we put so much stock into memory. If you think about it, all of our homes, like everything we have in our home, is based on memory, is based on nostalgia. It's based on what we perceive as we can't forget about ourselves. That's why we are a nostalgia-based nation. Well, because we don't have like the same cultural findings as many of our other nation partners do, like Japan or any other Asian countries or European countries, because America, we are that hodgepodge. We are the hot pot that we have our own cultural things, but we live off of nostalgia.
That's the reason people are still reinventing 80s and 90s cartoons.
Exactly. And so I'd be curious to see other people's perspective of this, knowing that we live off of nostalgia, knowing that we live off of memories, how they look at this. Because we have a very poor way of looking at anything like that.
And speaking of a poor way of looking, Hiromi in these episodes.
I do not like how silly this dude has gotten.
Well, that's just it. He has been probably the most serious guy throughout this, trying to guide all these younger kids, trying to be the commander and then just as a mentor. Then all of a sudden, as he's looking, as he charges in and starts looking through George's stuff, trying to find hints at how they can fix this, I can accept that, but then all of a sudden, as soon as they are in the room with the powder burn mark on the floor, hinted at episode 47, and they're all pointing at where the door should be, and then later shouting "Open Sesame," it's like, Hiromi's not usually this goofy.
No, I don't like what they've done with Hiromi. It feels like they have no idea what to do with his character, so they just turned him silly. It's kind of like the dude in Build, the son who started out as a villain, but then becomes a good guy halfway through, and they had no idea what to do with him, so then he became
Crocodile.
Comic relief. I feel like that's what they've done with
shirts.
I feel like that's what they've done with Hiromi, is that they didn't know what to do with him, so comic relief character.
See, I kind of feel like he's not fully a comic relief character. I feel like he's hedging in the middle.
But he's way too silly compared to how he was personality-wise earlier.
Well, if you think about it, the man died, essentially.
Not really.
Well, no, you know what I mean. He kind of died for a
period.
But
even then, he was still, although he has horrible fashion sense.
Well, I think... Oh, no. We'll get that in a moment. But I kind of feel like Hiromi is having like a new lease on life. Because he did go through a period where he lost himself, literally, that he's just to the point now of...
But my other thing is, though, I feel like they beat Juga too easily.
See, I guess I disagree.
Well, they did all this build-up for him in the last episode, and now he's already defeated. So that I was like, oh, really? He's already defeated?
I didn't think he would be like a 4-episode...
Well, that's the problem, though. These episodes just feel like they're stalling because they have several weeks to go. They're just, like I said, oh, we beat the big bad. Oh, we didn't know we were going to have an extra month to go.
Actually, I appreciate that they, unlike, what was the Gator in Bill's name? Kamen Rider
Rogue?
Yeah.
I just remember that transformation music. Da-na-na, da-na-na,
Dun-dun-dun,
da-na-na.
dun-dun-dun.
But he had this long stint where he would show up, beat everyone, episode ends. And for several weeks, that was the format. So I'm actually kind of grateful that they didn't drag it out to this one-on-one, one-on-two competition ended. And I like the introduction that George's childhood drawings helped inspire all the technology.
Well, they did that in X8.
And in Build.
But, no, I just feel like for all the hype that they gave George Juga, that it was just too easy. It was like, oh, okay. What? So this was just basically a last-minute toy sale.
So the one thing I've loved about Revice from start to finish is the fact that it has been so heavily story-based. And to have a conclusion that is still, for the most part, story-based, I think is very refreshing. Because there is something so frustrating at times when you have any series that goes up until literally you're butting against the last 5 to 10 minutes of the series, and you get a very basic epilogue that just doesn't feel satisfying.
Everyone's happy that the enemy is beaten. Okay, bye.
And this...
Yes, but...
Unless you're Jetman, then look out.
I don't know, it just feels like the Juga thing was tacked on, and it was too easy. No, what I'm saying is he was too easy to be defeated for this build-up they did. We haven't even actually seen his inner demons yet.
Well, that's part of the summer movie. Right?
Yeah, that was the summer movie.
Well, that's stupid. Don't build up his name of demons in the show if they're not actually going to be in the fucking show.
Clearly you have forgotten how marketing works.
And I've come to a conclusion that, one, there's always a whole ton of stuff that's released in movies that we don't see.
Yes, but usually it's not. If that's something that's important to the main story, that's something that should be in the show. That should not be reserved for a movie, because that's vital information you're missing out because you don't watch the movie. That's not how this is supposed to work. If your show's story is hijacked because you didn't see the movie, that's poor writing. And that's what I'm saying, is that I feel like if the George's Inner Demons plot is the movie, then the whole plot of that was hijacked from the show for the frickin' movie.
I can't say unilaterally it's poor writing. I can appreciate where you're coming from and say, yeah, that is a weak point. But as for... Because one of the episodes last showed a demon merging in the shadows behind George. We never saw that. If that's the movie, that was a poorly done cliffhanger. I should not have to go to the movie to understand what they're talking about in the series. This is different than just, in the movie they get an upgrade form that gets referenced in the series. No, this is an actual plot point being moved into another medium. It's like with frickin' Godzilla versus Kong. Oh, you want to know what happened to the Titans? Well, you have to go read the comic book series about it. Okay, that's fair. Or with Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Oh, you want to know why Grievous is coughing? Go watch the animated cartoon series, but we're going to retcon that anyway in a couple years, so it won't matter. But it's still important to see that for the movie.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to Toku Elite 555, who clued us in on George's...
Yes, I remember that picture.
The Chimera Driver, which became the Juga Driver, which I imagine they'll market as a 2-for-1. But, yep. Well, I'm not going to spoil it in case you folks want to see the movie. How to put it? Back in Build, we're referencing Build a bit tonight. They introduced 3 prime minister servants of the corrupt government at the tail end. They were never dealt with in the show. They were dealt with in the movie. And 01, they introduce a villain who can only be dealt with in the movie.
But the difference is with 01, because of COVID, the series ended and led into the movie. So that was kind of different because the series plot was still over. This guy was introduced in the final credit scene.
But, well, I'm not as offended that there's a movie that needs to be seen to sort this out. This is hard for us because we're over here in America and we can't just hop down to a movie theater to solve this conundrum. We've got to wait for the Blu-ray release, fan subs, or if they'd like to make official releases. So,
and that's the one challenge, and that's kind of why I can't fight it as much, because in Japan, if you're invested, you're going to go see it.
Yes, but you're also telling people they basically have to see the movie opening weekend, or your entire plot line is going to be lost on you.
That's kind of funny for us, as we often strive.
I was going to say, I know where you're coming from, but you're looking at it from the American perspective of we're watching these secondhand, where in Japan, they get all of their other mediums pretty much almost instantaneously.
Yeah,
so I know your argument, but it's, and I'm not saying it's moot, I'm just saying we don't have the luxury the Japanese.
All I know is that I feel like this whole George thing was a rushed plot. It was just rushed.
And that's fair. That is 100% fair.
Now, this thing with Vice, I feel it's been building through the whole series. And, it seems almost a given. You have a Kamen Rider series where there are 2 partner riders at the start. Surely by the end, given Kamen Rider's tragedy themes, of course they're going to come to blows in the end.
Well, it kind of reminded me of, like, for 01 with Aruto and Izu.
Yep.
Is that you knew based on how their familial relationship was going, and with here, it was building, but for so many years, for so many episodes, they weren't a family. They started out as an unwilling team because Iki did not trust, based on his interactions with his mom, trust working with Vice. And then down the line, they became like partners, acquaintances, friends. And then you kind of felt like with everything going on in the last arc, that's where they became more so family. So that's why I wasn't surprised when we got to this point that that Iki's memories weren't coming back, because he did have one family member left that he didn't forget. So what may have come as a shock to others, and I doubt it was a shock to either of you, but what could have been a shock to others, I was not surprised, because family bonds take place over time. Even your love of your own family takes place over time. Just because you're supposed to love them doesn't mean you instantaneously do.
Well, the one thing I will say is, did they really need to show us Sakura holding the ketchup bottle? Yes. I think we could have gotten the gist that it's all fake blood.
I knew it was all fake, but it was nice to kind of see, because I was like, when you saw Vice attacking, I was like, how many of those people did they convince? I want to know.
I'm pretty sure they're all Phoenix staff.
Well, yeah. I'm like, what kind of campaign did they get people? So.
Well, but also though, because Gen's acting for when he's being attacked, I'm like, oh my god, Gen cannot act.
But I did love Vice merging with the rubber ducky
That's got to be one of the harshest defeats in Kamen Rider history.
to be shat out by a rubber ducky.
You think they'll make that rubber ducky?
I was going to say I want that rubber ducky.
We're going to keep an eye out for the rubber ducky and for Love Ku plushie.
But the rubber ducky was awesome. I was like, that's...
Rubber ducky, you're the one.
So I like that. Now, when just kind of keeping on trend real quick, when you're talking about fashion faux pas, George's shirt, when they got out of the hot tubs, was so loud with all of those purples and pinks, those circles. That was like the loudest shirt I have seen.
Look, I'm really not in a position to criticize wearing a blank black t-shirt and jeans. So, but I like these eccentric shirts and dressing.
What did you think of George's shirt?
I don't remember it. I just hate Hiromi's horrible, like all buttoned all the way up and ugh.
See, that makes sense for Hiromi because he's been like that the entirety of the series.
Yeah, I'm just saying I've hated his fashion since the entire show.
George, he just has loud ass shirts.
Honestly, I feel that of the three of us, only Cruellica is really qualified to critique fashion.
Thank you.
That said, you always critique fashion of the villain as they're killing someone. I really like their boots. I hope they don't get blood on them, or in this case, ketchup.
Okay.
Oh, and why is it that Iki didn't say, Vice, why do you smell so delicious?
Well, Iki, as much as it frustrates me, he is not dumb. He even makes the comment, why are you lying?
Yep.
So he knows, and I think, well, he doesn't know maybe why Vice is doing this based on him saying, you are my family now. I think he knows that there's a reason behind this, and even if Iki gets all of his memories back, which...
I hope not.
I hope so.
I hope not.
Even if he does, which I kind of am leaning towards he will.
Oh, he will, but I hope not.
But there's still the element of the entire... Because I don't think if he gets his memories back at the end, now that we're at this point and seeing how they've written the story, I don't feel it like it's a waste of the story. I feel like there's been a natural progression, and I feel like it's worked.
Okay, if he gets his memories back, then I want Vice to be fully disintegrated from existence.
Well, this leads to my prediction. We have exactly one stamp spot left in the end credits. I predict that Vice will sacrifice himself into, well, basically a seal. It's going to be in the stamp, separate from Iki, and basically remove himself from their lives until the movies, where, of course, they...
Well, and I kind of feel like that would be the case, that he is going to be, but I kind of hope, in a way, that he's forgotten.
But quite possibly. Like, all they remember is, here's this bottle, do not stamp, do not use unless crises.
Actually, I could see the final stamp just being the end logo.
Or maybe... Well, wait, what about the evil face? Or at least Vice's mask as the...
See, I kind of feel like... I get where you're going, and I agree. But I kind of feel like Iki is the only one who should forget Vice. I think it should be still, in a way, that tragedy where everybody else remembers him, but Iki doesn't.
I don't know. I want there to be some sort of like sacrifice. Either he gets all his memories back, but Vice is deleted from existence, or Vice stays. The memories are gone.
Well, I appreciate Vice saying at the start of episode 49, heroes often get the short end of the stick for saving the world.
Yes.
Which especially in Kamen Rider.
The DC universe.
Well, in the DC universe, they don't do a great job of saving the world. In fact, they kind of blow up more of it than the villains.
The villains actually save the world more than the heroes, it seems like, these days.
But you think of Kamen Riders, they very rarely get out scot-free. In fact, I've got to say that Kuga was probably one of the more clean and optimistic endings. I'm thinking of Blade, which was probably the heaviest, and O's. I know that in O's they lose the mentor figure, but the movies give hope that they'll find him again. And
Well, I also think of
and Drive. Mach swore he would find a way to bring back his friend.
Apple. And then if you think about it with 01, discounting the movies, because I will never watch the movies ever again, except for the main movie that ended the series.
Real times, not
but
01 others.
You still had the tragedy there of, yes, Aruto won, Jin had his father figure, all of that, but Izu
Was still gone.
She was still gone. They couldn't even recover her data. So you still lost a pivotal character, even if she's there physically on screen.
She's not the same. Though, will you watch the all-female Rider series?
I'll watch
movie.
everything once.
Movie.
But I refuse to watch the two 01 movies again because
01 others.
Yes, because
the Valkyrie and
those
Mitsubo Jinrai movie.
those really were a slap in the face to all the fans. Same goes for a lot of the X-Aid movies. Even if people like them, I felt a lot of those X-Aid movies were a slap in the face to the fans based on retconning story items.
What did the Five Fingers say to the face?
That's why I'm like a little hesitant on Gates, not just because Takahashi is 50-50 with his Kamen Rider series, but because he doesn't know how to write an ending. I mean, he's gotten some really good loop on the third movies. There's no ending to them yet, though. So,
Which movies they do?
Jigen's Gravestone.
That was Takahashi?
Yeah, that's the X-Aid 01 dude. He has yet to give those movies a proper ending. And that was 2019 when the last one came out. Because those movies were fantastic, but they don't have a conclusion yet. It's they're written as if there's supposed to be at least one more movie.
I can't feel bad for you, dude. I'm still waiting for the next Game of Thrones book. You know how long that's been waiting?
You could sate your thirst with that garbage prequel series that just came out yesterday.
The most watched premiere on HBO history?
Because apparently Warner Brothers thinks they are trying to pretend they have this Better Call Saul thing going on.
But just think about it. You have an ending to Game of Thrones.
No, I have an ending to my pain. That's what that season finale was, an ending to the pain. I don't count it as an ending to Game of Thrones.
And how many years has it been since the last book?
Actually, that excellent question. Winds of Winter was released. I want to say it was right when it was the same weekend, basically, an IKEA opened in Denver.
Yeah, I think so.
So
wasn't that before Game of Thrones even hit HBO?
Oh yes.
I was going to say yes.
Because hasn't he been writing the new book since the HBO series premiered?
I'm still thinking about the fact
from iZombie.
iZombie, the best. Well,
actually, Winds of Winter is the next one.
So asking,
Song.
what's George R. R. Martin doing with his time?
He's pissing off his fans.
Not writing.
Yep, Babineau. Not writing.
No, he said it with more anger. And then he showed his girlfriend's son Game of Thrones because that was the thing to do to an 11-year-old.
Dance with Dragons came out in 2011.
So it's been 11 years?
Ma foi, it's been over a decade.
Well, that would make sense because the series came out, 2011, 2012?
Wow.
But
I am so pissed.
you say say it in such a happy manner.
I'm rekindling that fandom rage. It's like a comfortable familial flame after a cold day.
Don't worry, you'll forget it in a few weeks.
Probably. I can't sustain this anger. Martin has outweighed me on all fronts.
But overall, Revice, I know we still have one more episode left, and that can truly destroy a series, sure. But I will say the 49 episodes that we have watched, I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've appreciated the fact that, yes, it was a Kamen Rider series, but it had so many other elements. It had drama, it has intrigue, it has, in a way, elements of like a crime story and a police story. I feel like it captured something from when we did watch Agito and Kuga. And you may disagree because you are a purist in many ways overall, but I feel like it captured something from those older Rider series that I really appreciate.
I still feel like it's probably the most early Heisei feeling Kamen Rider series in the last decade. But now that we're after the last several weeks and some of the stuff in the 30s, I will say I still think Gaim and Double are the better series.
Oh, go ahead.
Revice and Gaim are kind of battling right now for my favorite.
That's kind of how it feels for me, because while 01 was my favorite for a while, except until the movies,
Good
others.
Lord, I miss these movies, and I'm not sure I ever want to see them.
No.
Don't ever.
I basically wanted to walk out after I watched them.
I am one of who will support almost pretty much any Toku series Shout Factory brings out in America. I will buy X-Aid, I will buy Wizard, I will buy Skyrider,
Wizard.
I will buy the worst Sentai. I will buy Go Busters Q Ranger if Shell Factory releases them. I will not buy 01 others, even if Shell Factory released them with 100 freaking Kamen Rider posters, figures, henshin belts, and a public apology.
Okay.
What if they...
Maybe... I wouldn't go that far. If they released it with figures, henshin belt, and a public apology, I would probably still buy it because I like everything else, but...
What if they release the ending movie and the other in one box set?
The ending movie is with this series.
Yeah, the real time's already with the Blu-ray set.
Well, then judge that bullet. I mean, the Matrix dodge there, but honestly, if there was one way to go, gotcha, America, it'd be to just release it.
Okay, let me put it this way.
Okay.
Others is the Jonah Hex of Kamen Rider for me.
See, I wasn't that offended by Jonah Hex. I mean...
But remember
Take
me.
the movie that defended you the most.
No. Just remember...
Any movie that offended me the most, I stopped watching. Mid-movie. Yeah.
Just remember...
That's probably what happened here.
Remember how I was when we were at Jonah Hex in the theater and the movie ended.
Dude, you were pissed. And you were pissed the week before.
Okay, fine.
And the week after.
Let's go with this.
And the week after that.
Let's go with this.
And the year after that.
Fine.
You're pissed right now.
2009, PlayStation 3 Dying Night.
With 2000. Oh, no. Well, yeah. Okay. We barely made it out that night alive.
We did. If it wasn't for our incredibly flamboyant waiter who kept on hitting on Silver Quill, I don't think we would have survived.
Yeah, see, he knew which of us was the hot one.
That's because he knew I was taken.
I'm not gonna comment.
But anyway, we'll have to see how the finale goes before I can actually give final thoughts. Before I actually,
you can at least give thoughts on the first 49 episodes.
It has its ups and downs. It was.
It hasn't taken a decade to get the next entry out, so you're doing better than George R. R. Martin.
With that in mind, what did you guys think of these last two episodes? What are you looking forward to hoping for in the finale? Let us know in the comments. Click like, subscribe, the bell notification, whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support us. You can support me and Cruellica Kain on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Discord, Patreon, and my website, creativitybydesignllc.com. You can check out cool Kaiju no Kami merchandise at creativitybydesignllc.com/shop. And there's also a link in the description below.
And then you can also support Silver Quill.
MLP Silver Quill on Twitter, DeviantArt, and the YouTubes. If you do a search for After the Fact, please also search Silver Quill. Otherwise, you'll get a news program that has not covered George R. R. Martin's lack of progress.
And you can also support him on Patreon and Coffee.
Yes, the links are on my YouTube page. And I will see folks in Seattle and Bellevue, Washington area this coming weekend for Everfree Northwest. Looking forward to seeing everybody.
Coffee?
Okay.
It's too late for coffee. It's like 7 o'clock at night.
So let's get some dinner then.
Yes.
Well, that's it. Bye!
Bye!
You know it's supposed to be, we don't leave till I say bye, right?
No, I'm getting dinner. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Food.